We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. It's already been a busy one. There is no court in the Manhattan district today. Wednesday's the day off, but we had a busy one yesterday. We've got plenty to talk about what happened yesterday. And I will just say this before we go into the details. A lot of people were concerned about Michael Cohen testifying. Oh, he'll ruin it for the prosecution. Oh, I'm scared. Donald Trump will win. Well, it has not gone well for Donald Trump, even with Michael Cohen on the witness stand. Michael Cohen is knowing how to play this out. He's staying calm, measured, and he's making the defense lawyer, Todd Blanche, um, look like a fool. Blanche is trying real hard to rile this guy up, Michael Cohen, but to no avail. It's not working. And if you can't rile him up and discredit him, and he's in deep trouble. And let me tell you right now, if you look at the way this trial has run from beginning to this point, there has been nothing positive working for Donald Trump. Now, that's not surprising given the prosecution is really the only one put on a case. But I will tell you this, Michael Cohen will be back on the witness stand on Thursday. And presuming that the cross-examination will end by Thursday, and I assume it will, at that point, the prosecution will rest. They will be done. Now it will be up to the defense to put on their case. And we could have this going to the jury as quickly as next week. It'll be interesting to see what the defense team does, what kind of case they put up. A lot of times they don't put up much of a case. And frankly, I don't know who they're going to call as witnesses. Anybody that's going to help them has already been up there for the prosecution. Now, you understand the defense has the easier job in this trial. They don't have to prove anything. All they have to do is interject or create some reasonable doubt, and that will be enough to get Donald Trump off on these 34 charges. But that's not going to happen because from the beginning, from each of the witnesses, they've laid out exactly what happened, and they pretty much have all the evidence they need to show that Donald Trump was doing what he was doing, paying off Stormy Daniels and some other things, strictly to benefit him during or for the election. And that's where at least one of the crimes comes in. The other crime, of course, is paying Michael Cohen and calling it legal fees when it was just repayment for Michael Cohen's payment to Stormy Daniels. What's interesting, they're saying, well, he was just on retainer. Funny thing is, there is no retainer agreement. Donald Trump never kept a lawyer on retainer. He's very miserly, and he paid only what he had to pay, and he needed it down to the nickel. So the idea that Donald Trump put Michael Cohen on a $35,000 a month retainer is just ridiculous, and they pretty much proved that out. So there's a lot of people worried about Michael Cohen. I had Democrats coming to me saying, look, man, he's going to lose his shit. He's going to fuck it all up. Donald Trump will get off. Well, that's not happened. That's not happened at all. We still have tomorrow with him on the stand, but you have to understand with Michael Cohen, some people look at him as a hero because he's going against Donald Trump. But prior to that, when he worked with Donald Trump, this is one despicable motherfucker. He was a liar. He was a cheater. He was a bully. He was doing Donald Trump's bidding. He was all in with Donald Trump. And he's pretty much owned up to that right now. And he's apparently embarrassed. But Michael Cohen did something that I didn't think was possible. He talked about his family and how this all affected him and going to jail and how poorly he was treated. He almost became a sympathetic person in this case, and I never thought he would be that. Whether that translates to the jury or not, I don't know. But suffice to say that Michael Cohen did a good job, did the best job he could possibly do in the cross-examination thus far. So We'll talk more about that in a minute because there was some crazy shit going on in court. Very interesting stuff. And Todd Blanche made himself out to be a fool. Before I get to the emails, had a great day yesterday. You know, I'm a retired guy, so my days aren't exactly stacked with being busy all day. The extent of what I do most days is TikToks and podcasts. And people will say, well, you're lazy. You don't, fuck, I worked from the time I was 15 till the time I was about 60. So I put my time in and put myself in a good enough situation to be able to relax. And I told my wife that. I said, look, we're 60. At the time I said this, we're 64 now. My wife's birthday coming up on May 26th, and she'll be 64 as well. But I said, let's be honest. We're 64 years old. At best, we got 20 years. And not all of those 20 years are necessarily in an ambulatory state. So we're just going to have fun. We're going to relax. We're not going to stress out about shit. We're not going to live the life that we've lived up to this point, you know, hectic and stressful and all that kind of stuff. We're just going to fuck off and have fun. We're going to do what we want to do. And that's kind of what has happened. And I feel absolutely grateful to be able to be in this position. And I tell my kids, and I've told other people, don't worry about getting rich and famous. Don't worry about having all the toys. What you should be striving for is when you get to a point, when you're still young enough to enjoy it, just make sure you're comfortable. Just make sure that you have enough and you can do the things you want and get rid of the stress. Get rid of the noise and the hurdles that you've had to go through all your life. That's why when I tell people say, wouldn't you want to go back to being 30? Fuck no, I don't want to go back to being 30. That was hard. That was real fucking hard. I had kids, I had jobs, I had bills, I had all kinds of shit that made life difficult. We all, at some point in our life, should be able to take a period of time and relax and try to enjoy this thing we call life. And that's what we should be shooting for, not to be the richest or most famous. But what I did yesterday, my wife and I and a friend, we got out on our boat. We got out on the lake. It was, you know, it wasn't hot, but it was near 70, so it was good. And we cruised around the lake a little bit, and it was the first time of the year. And I'm looking forward to getting out there from time to time. I don't get out there as much as you would think, but when I do, it's kind of relaxing. It's kind of serene when you go out there. Sometimes I go out there by myself. My wife's working or something. I'm sitting here. I could be sitting here doing TikToks, and instead I say, fuck it, I'm going to go out in a boat and I'll sit in the bay and I'll just do TikToks. And it's really relaxing. Um, Sometimes I will get Republicans coming to my page and say, "Well, you got a boat, you're going on trips all the time. You must be rich. You are talking like you're for the Democrats, but you're actually a Republican." Look, as I told you, I'm comfortable. I'm certainly not rich. I do travel a lot, but the reason I travel a lot is because my wife works for an airlines and I can fly for fucking free. Boat, not an expensive boat. It's a 20-foot pontoon. It's not a big deal. And over and above that, we had some friends of ours come to us and say, we want a boat too, but we don't live on a lake. I said, okay. Well, when we have a boat, you can certainly borrow our boat. And I said, and they said, yeah, okay, let's talk about that. And then they took off. About 2 days later, I get a call from the husband. He said, listen, Mike, I found a boat we need to buy. I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I haven't seen the boat. We're going to buy this. And, he was just excited. He wanted this boat. And, so he says, I'm going to buy it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, you can't do that, bitch. So anyway, he buys the boat. It's not a lot of money. It was about $22,000 or something. It's a very standard pontoon. And I said, you bought a fucking boat and you're going to put it in my slip and you didn't tell me what it cost or anything like that. He goes, well, don't worry about it. I go, oh, I'm fucking worried about it. Tell me. So the deal I got was they'll buy the boat, which they did. I give them about a third of what the cost of the boat is, one third of the boat. Because as he said, I have the dock, I have the lake. We can't do anything with the boat if you don't have the dock and the lake, and you're paying for all that stuff. So whatever the boat cost, you pay me a third of it. You will own half of it, and we'll keep it in the slip. Now I didn't like that idea because I don't like sharing stuff. It's always going to cause a problem. But the way it worked out, this couple likes to go out when they go out, and it's maybe once or twice a month on a weekend, which is fine. I don't even like going out on the weekends that much because it's so fucking busy. Um, so that's what we did. So yes, I have a boat. No, I'm not fucking rich. I'm just comfortable. Anyhow, went out of the boat yesterday. It was absolutely fabulous. Can't wait to do it more. Every year I say, I'm going to fish. Yeah, I'm going to fish. Never fucking do. I buy the license, never fish. Sometimes we'll take the kids out and let them fish, but I never fish. I don't know what it is. All right. Enough bullshitting around. Let's get to the emails and then to the news, the big news from yesterday, the trial. First one comes from Michael. He says, hi, Mike, Gen Xer here. Love your podcast. I found you on TikTok and then started listening to your podcast. In regard to the cult citing the Wildwood crowd size as some kind of metric, I'd like to point out that they did this all the way throughout the 2020 election as well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. What they would say was, how could Joe possibly beat Trump when we have crowds this large? Remember that? Then again in 2022 for the midterms, the red puddle. It seems to be all they have, Dunning-Kruger level rhetoric and false equivalence. Michael. Yeah, that's it. They try to explain away their crazy thoughts. Well, Donald Trump can pull a bigger crowd than Joe Biden. That would translate into more votes. Yeah, but fundraising, Joe Biden's fundraised twice as much as Donald Trump. That would translate into votes too. If you notice about Trump-la-Fox, no matter what they claim or no matter what they predict, they come up with these wild reasons why they have to be right. And the problem is they're always wrong. It's almost laughable after a time. But Michael, I appreciate your comments. I agree with you completely. And we'll hear all kinds of bullshit in the coming months as we get closer to the election. For them to suggest there was $100,000 or 100,000 people in New Jersey for Donald Trump's rally, which is basically the same thing over and over, and anything that's different is just crazy and wild and a tangent out to Hannibal Lecter or whatever the fuck he did. But it's a joke. The thing is, these people know they're losers. They know they're going to lose. They're trying to convince us in hopes that maybe we will change our stance and go, oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. You guys are beating us. We just won't try anymore. This is the consummate bully tactic. Try to bowl you over with their threats and then you'll just back down and that's how they win. Where they lose is when people don't back down. And I will tell you for myself and for all of you here in the podcast audience and anybody else that has any sense, ain't no more backing down anymore. We're going to step towards you and shove it down your fucking throat. If you don't like it, well, then you can curl up in a corner and cry. And they're starting to do that. All right. The next email, I believe this comes from Garage Door Jeff. Hi, Boomer. I'm going to make a prediction. Nikki and Trump will find reconciliation and she will be his running mate. She's the only woman who can bolt on after the whole puppy shooting incident. There's nobody else, and the chance at power will cause Nikki to make the mistake of accepting the offer. Poor Tim Scott. Even if he had a real girlfriend, his oversized gums eliminate him. They may be ridiculous, petty, and sad, but it's true. On a separate data point, I see almost no Trump signs. Now, I don't live where a lot would be, but I get around, and the only ones I see are the super freaks with 20 signs and giant flags and slogans. You know, the lunatics, the gun shops, and rundown houses with Pulp Fiction pawn shop vibe. They're self isolating, and I appreciate that. Best Garage Door Jeff. P.S. You mentioned Jamie Kennedy, and I was surprised you knew who he was. What the fuck? Does that mean we agree that Malibu's Most Wanted is hugely underrated and deserves to be mentioned along with iconic films like Joe Dirt? Absolutely. My wife, I think my kids asked us to watch it when it was out and it was on cable. And my wife and I sat down. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. I don't know that I'm a Jamie Kennedy fan, but in that movie, he was pretty awesome. Where he made references, you know, he was a rapper and playing Malibu's Most Wanted. It was a silly show, and um, how he would refer to Malibuti. I agree with you, Jeff. It is a great movie. It is underrated, and if you haven't seen it, you should take a look at it. I don't know how it holds up after all these years, but it was hilarious when I saw it. Oh, and about Nikki Haley. I may have to disagree with you on just Jeff. I don't know that Nikki Haley will be the vice presidential candidate. I will agree that that is probably Donald Trump's best choice. She is taking votes away from him without even being on the ballot in these primaries. But I think Eric yesterday made a good point. I don't know that people were voting for Nikki Haley. They were more so voting against Donald Trump. And he may be right about that. Nikki Haley was the last one to drop out. But Nikki Haley has a couple of problems of being a vice presidential candidate. The upside for them is that she's a woman. It's also a downside for them. And then the fact that she is born of immigrant parents from East India. I don't know that the Republicans can stomach that. Honestly, I mean, for as racist and misogynistic and anti Semitic as they are, I don't know that they can stomach it. Um, I said something, maybe I said this to Eric yesterday, and my wife asked me about this today. Why are all these people desperate to be Joe Biden's vice president? Well, I think it's the same reason that Nikki Haley stuck in as long as she did. I don't think it has anything to do with them really wanting to be vice president or being even tied to Donald Trump. They want to be in the narrative. They want their name to be out there. They want to be the popular one because they're seeing the same things a lot of people are seeing, including me. Can Donald Trump make it to November? I'm not sure he can. I hope he does because I think that's the best scenario for the election with Joe Biden, but I don't know how he does it. We may be a week away from multiple guilty convictions. The money situation, the evidence coming out, the embarrassment. This guy's got a fragile emotional state and a fragile physical state. Can he ride it out all the way till November 5th? I'm not so sure. I mean, if he was 35 years old, maybe. But in his age and his current state, I don't know how he does it. I said before, when the convictions come up in this case, whether we see the other trials or not before the election, this is going to be devastating to Donald Trump, to the Republican Party. And I want to wait and see what happens. So I think all these vice presidential candidates, I don't think they like Donald Trump, and I think they're risking a lot by trying to stay tight to Donald Trump and continuing to support him. Because, see, if he does fall off the cliff before November 5th, they're going to need his votes. And a lot of people believe that if the votes, if Donald Trump is not the nominee, then they just won't vote at all. So they got to cater to the Trumplafucks as well as still trying to be normal to get the rest of the people on their side. The one thing Donald Trump does not have is unity in the Republican Party. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. If you don't have unity in the Republican Party, you cannot win the presidential election. I think some of these dumb fucks like Nikki Haley or Doug Burgum, for God's sake, think that that they can balance that somehow. They can be nice to Donald Trump and support him and still appear normal enough to get the regular Republicans to vote for them. I really believe that. And as far as Nikki Haley being the VP, I think Eric made a great point yesterday. He thought it would be Doug Burgum. Now, granted, Doug Burgum is a one dimensional, stupid piece of shit, Trump humping asshole, but he's a legitimate billionaire. And the thing that Donald Trump needs more than anything right now, fucking money. So I tend to agree with Eric. The smart choice for Donald Trump would be Nikki Haley. That would be a dumb choice for Nikki Haley because she's young enough that she's got to look ahead to 2028 and beyond. Uh, so you could be right, Jeff, but I'm just not seeing how Nikki Haley will ultimately be the vice president. We'll see what happens. Again, if Donald Trump doesn't make it to November 5th, then it's all a moot point. Doesn't fucking matter. They'll have to scramble around and find another candidate, which they don't have. All right. Next email. Hi, Boomer. So happy that you had a great time in Key West. Today, Trump admitted to the press corps at the court today that he had surrogates on his behalf. Yeah, he had all that clown show at the court today, something we'll talk about more. Talking about the court, the jury, the judge, and the witnesses right in front of the courthouse. This is a clear violation of the gag order, in my opinion. And I tend to agree with you. You know, Donald Trump's been fairly quiet when it comes to the witnesses and the jury and that sort of thing. Because if he does say something, Judge Juan Marchand has already said, all I got left is to put you in jail, motherfucker. And all those people saying, oh, he wants to go to jail. Clearly he don't. He don't want to go to jail. And that's a smart move, which is rare enough for Donald Trump. So what he does then is he brings these surrogates, and we'll talk about that, including, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and has them say the things he wants to say. And he thinks he found a fucking loophole. But he didn't find a loophole. He fucked up. Now the question is whether they'll do something about it. And where he fucked up was in the gag order. If you read it, what it says is that he can't say anything or he can't cause somebody else to say something. He can't influence somebody else to do that. So now these people are being asked, like Doug Burgum was asked, did you were you told to do this? No, we did this of our own volition, and we're out here to support our friend Donald Trump. Well, that seems kind of strange. Um, I understand there may be a hearing about this very topic. I don't know when that's going to be, if it's going to be at all, but I agree with you. It is most definitely a violation of the gag order, and Donald Trump once again fucked up. Like I said, let him keep talking, let him keep scheming, and he'll fuck himself up every time. Now, the emailer went on to say Mike Johnson is a disgrace. It's too bad that the Democrats had to save his job in order to get funding for Ukraine. Never again. The judge really needs to do something with this fool. He makes me sick and he needs to feel the full weight of the legal system. I don't understand how the Speaker of the House, who is supposed to be a separate entity, uh, three co-equal parts of government, not a sycophant for this piece of shit. If he doesn't know the Constitution, someone needs to read it to him. You know, Trump called him up and personally asked him to come. Thank you for all you do, especially your podcast every day, Rhonda. Yeah, Donald Trump is just reacting to being embarrassed. That's all he's doing. Um, he heard the people talking about how Donald Trump doesn't have any fucking support. Nobody's showing up for Donald Trump. So immediately he gets on the phone. He calls up Eric. He says, Eric, come on out. And Eric sits down and he's watching. He's seeing shit that he's never seen fucking before. And you can see he's a little appalled. Now, he was in court yesterday as well. He was going through his phone and shit, which he's not supposed to do, but at least he showed up. And then we get all these weird people that show up, like Attorney General Ken Paxton of Texas. He showed up. I mean, this is a fucking criminal in the first place. And then today he had Tommy Tuberville, um, JD Vance, and Mike Johnson showed up, of all people. And the interesting thing about it, and again, this is something we'll talk about later. The interesting thing about it is that they all wore the same suit in tribute to Donald Trump, a blue suit with a red tie. It looked absolutely fucking silly. You know, it's kind of like those. When I saw what they were doing, they thought they were doing something cool, something powerful. And it reminds me of when I was like a teenager, and my mom was only 20 years younger than or older than us. But you know, you come home and you're 16, 17 years old and you're cool as shit and you know all the cool shit going on. And then your mom does something to try to be cool. And it's just cringy. And you go, God, mom, don't fucking do that. That's how I felt when I was looking at these clowns at the courthouse standing up for Donald Trump. All right. Moving on to some of the news. We had the court yesterday in the trial. Donald Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, began his confrontation. We knew that he was going to go after Michael Cohen. So he needed to come out strong and hit him hard. Well, it didn't really work out that way. But he was throwing the former fixer's language back in his face. Oh, that's going to work. Blanche confirmed that the two had never spoken, but asked Cohen whether he knew who he was already, since Cohen went on TikTok and called me a crying little shit just before the trial began. So he's trying to embarrass Cohen by saying, "You were on TikTok and you called me a crying little shit, didn't you?" Michael Cohen, just as calm as you could be, says, "Yeah, sounds like something I would say." Not the response they were hoping for. But that didn't stop them. They kept this bullshit going on. Um, they were really trying to rile Michael Cohen up. They want to discredit him. They want to make him unsympathetic to the jury. Did not work. That question set the tone for cross examination of the Manhattan District Attorney's key witness, Michael Cohen. For roughly 2 hours, Blanche began a cross examination to try to discredit Cohen's allegations against Trump. He did not succeed. But after the initial fireworks over Cohen's TikTok post, much of his cross examination Tuesday was more subdued. As Blanche quizzed him on the many compliments he gave Trump when he was still a loyal fixer and the money he's made from books and podcasts since turning against him. Cohen did not get rattled when his nasty statements were read back to him, and Trump hardly reacted to his lawyer's interrogation. Still, there's a long way to go. Blanche indicated the cross examination would continue through most of the day Thursday when court resumes. Now, over 2 days, Cohen has detailed the hush money scheme. He's laid it out end to end in simple terms. The jury will understand this. Cohen's testimony ties together the prosecution's allegation that Trump broke the law by falsifying business records to reimburse Cohen and conceal the payment. Trump has pleaded not guilty and denies having an affair with Daniels. Yeah, we buy that. Now, if Cohen gets off the stand on Thursday, the prosecution appears ready to rest its case against Trump. And as I said, then it will be up to the defense to put up their case. And I don't think that's going to last very long. You know, we were talking 6 to 8 weeks for this case. We're just day 17 into this case. Now, Blanche's opening question was just the first in a series of colorful quotes from Cohen that Blanche raised to jurors to try to paint Cohen as someone who hated Trump. I love this. Oh, you just hate Trump. Well, who the fuck doesn't? He tried to overthrow our country. He's marginalized LGBTQ. He's overturned the Roe v. Wade decision. Everybody hates this motherfucker. If you don't hate him, you're in the minority. Blanche had plenty of material to work with regarding what Cohen had said about him. Cohen has written two books, Disloyal and Revenge, and has recorded hundreds of podcasts confirming he mentions Trump in every episode of Mea Culpa. Now, regarding Cohen's first podcast in 2020, Blanche asked whether he called Trump a boorish cartoon misogynist. Cohen once again says, yeah, sounds like something I would say. Blanche then asked whether Cohen called Trump a Cheeto dusted cartoon villain. Cohen said, that also sounds like something I would say. Blanche fired more lines at Cohen, asking whether he said on his podcast in 2020, I truly fucking hope that Donald Trump ends up in prison. Sounds more like my language on Mea Culpa, Cohen responded. Um, See, he was getting nowhere. Um, he was getting nowhere with Michael Cohen. He was trying to shake him up. He was trying to embarrass him. But in this particular situation, Michael Cohen has no shame. And I'll be honest with you, this is the best tack to take. I've said this before, especially when you're dealing with Trump-lefucks. They want you to engage with them. They want you yelling and screaming because that's the only platform they know how to deal on. And as I've told you before, when I've dealt with Trump-lefucks in the past, my personal life, they'll start ranting and raving, trying to suck me in. And I'll just smile and say, yeah, I said that. Yeah, I said this. And it drives them nuts because they can't fight on that level. They don't have the capability. Uh, so this went on for a little bit. And the thing about it is, once it didn't work, why would you continue doing it? But Blanche insisted on doing it. Then he asked Cohen how much money he made from his books, his podcast, his TikTok account he launched 6 months ago. The upshot of the questioning was that Cohen was making a living off attacking Trump after he lost his law license following his 2018 guilty plea to charges including campaign finance violation linked to the hush money scheme. Now, Cohen tried to put another spin on it, asked what his goal was of putting out a TikTok nearly every night. He said, build an audience, to create a community, to really vent because I have a difficult time sleeping. So I found an outlet. The tug of war over Cohen's words is sure to continue Thursday, tomorrow. Blanche tries to convince the jury not to trust Cohen's allegations related to the case itself. Now, as I said, Cohen, if you can remember back, and I know everybody forgets, if you can remember back while Cohen was still working with Donald Trump, he was a despicable motherfucker. He's not a good guy. Now, maybe he's changed. I guess jail might do that for you. But this defense team, Todd Blanche, is trying to make him unsympathetic, trying to embarrass him, trying to get him angry and engaging, and none of it worked. In fact, when he was talking sorrowfully about how this affected his family and having to go into solitary confinement when he thought he was going to be released because Bill Barr pulled some strings and did something unethical by putting Michael Cohen back in jail because of a book that he had coming out. He was almost a sympathetic soul there. I don't know what the jury thought of it or what they're thinking, but what I do know is that what Todd Blanche was attempting and the defense team for Donald Trump was trying to attempt, it didn't work. It did not work. Nothing the defense team has tried since this trial has started has worked. Everything has worked pretty well for the prosecution. So when people come to me and say, well, I think he'll get off, you really think he's going to get off 34 felony charges? I disagree. I'd bet the house on that motherfucker. There's no way he wins this case. No way. Absolutely zero chance of that. So anyway, We will take a quick break and we will be right back. Earlier in the podcast, I was talking about the surrogates for Donald Trump that came out to court in the Manhattan district yesterday. And they weren't just any surrogates, they were people like J.D. Vance, Doug Burgum, a lot of vice presidential prospects. Um, and of course, Mike Johnson was the top of the heap as Speaker of the House. Um, as I've said, this is kind of a shady situation. Donald Trump is upset that he can't respond to the witnesses, the jury, and such. Otherwise, he might spend a night in jail. And clearly, he's afraid, scared to death of that prospect. So he brings these people out and has them say the things that he wants to say, thinking he found a loophole. But I don't think it's a loophole. In fact, I think he fucked up because what's happening here, assuming they can prove that, uh, was a definite violation of the gag order, and Donald Trump should be punished accordingly. Anyway, House Speaker Mike Johnson is getting absolutely slammed for his defense of Donald Trump outside the New York courtroom where the hush money trial is going on. On Tuesday, Johnson became the highest ranking Republican official to show support for the former president and his attacks on the judicial system. Now, the interesting thing about Mike Johnson is whenever you ask him where his stance is, he doesn't refer to the Constitution, he refers to the Bible, which is ironic because now he's out supporting a guy who committed adultery, committed fraud against the government, tried to overturn the election. But Mike Johnson is standing behind him. That tells you his belief in the Bible and God is suspect at best because he's willing to set it aside to ensure power, ensure safety in terms of his job by hanging with Donald Trump. It's all misguided. It's all going to blow up in his face, but he's too dumb to realize it. The Associated Press called it a remarkable moment in modern American politics, and it really was. It was historic for somebody like Mike Johnson, who is Speaker of the House, to come out and stand with a clear criminal. That says a lot about the Republican Party, and none of it is fucking good. It demonstrates that the GOP is moving away from the federal and state legal system. They've always been the rule of law party. Well, clearly, they've stepped away from that. They have to own that. President Trump is innocent of these charges, Johnson said. Really? Because I got to tell you, the evidence suggests otherwise, and the evidence is there. You want to tell us that Joe Biden is guilty with zero evidence, but you want to tell us Donald Trump is not guilty with all kinds of evidence. See what I mean? It's hard to take a guy like this seriously. He's clearly nothing but a sycophant, and he has no problem lying about it. So go ahead and preach your Bible to me, preach your religion to me, but when your actions speak louder than your words. He claimed that the judicial system in our country has been weaponized against President Trump, and lawmakers are using all the tools at its disposal right now to punish one president to provide cover for another. See what I mean? Now he's going to tell us that Joe Biden is guilty, but you have no evidence, motherfucker. Give me some evidence, and then we can talk. Johnson's sycophantic defense of Trump was quickly mocked by folks on social media, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. This is what she wrote. She said, I'm surprised that Speaker Johnson wants to be in the I cheated on my wife with a porn star club, she wrote on X, formerly Twitter. I guess he's not that concerned with teaching morality to our young people after all. But Cheney wasn't the only one who roasted him uh, for showing up at the trial. There were all kinds of tweets or X's or whatever the fuck they're called now, and they absolutely destroyed Mike Johnson. And this has got to be weighing a little heavy on him because we know Republicans are really concerned about how people perceive them. They've got to be tough. They've got to be first and foremost. And frankly, this trip to court did not do well for Mike Johnson. It was bad for Donald Trump, but it was also bad for Mike Johnson and all the rest of the motherfuckers. So let's talk about them. As I said, Republicans flocked to a lower Manhattan courthouse Tuesday as a show of solidarity with former President Donald Trump as he attends his hush money trial. And to me, this smells of desperation. They know that Donald Trump is losing. They know that if he is convicted of multiple felonies, it's fucking over. Donald Trump is over. So they're trying to save his life. And we had a whole shitload of Republicans show up. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Florida Representative Byron Donalds, former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, and Florida Rep. Corey Mills held a press conference outside 100 Center Street, all sporting dark blue suits, white collared shirts, and red ties in a style effort to pay the respects to Donald Trump. Isaiah Swift, noticing the Trumpian uniform, writing, all wearing the same tie. Interesting. Another edition of Who Wants to Be VP reaches an excruciating climax, read on an X post by Jesse Teagill. At Asphyxius2 was blunt about the obvious fashion statement, tweeting, is that the stand-in court with the criminal leader of our party, standard uniform they're all wearing? On MSNBC, Nicole Wallace called the uniform clownish, and I think she nailed it there. Former prosecutor Andrew Weissman added it reminded him of a mob case. Well, that's pretty much what the fuck it is, a mob case. And it was a joke seeing them do this. But again, it lends itself to the desperation currently in the Republican Party. They see they're losing. They're losing at every turn. They've lost the Roe v. Wade issue. They've lost the Joe Biden's a crook effort. And now they see that Donald Trump, as much as they tried to delay it, as much as they tried to deny it, it's all coming to a head soon, like within a week or two, and their best friend will be convicted of multiple criminal charges. Then it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, they're putting on the full court press right now because they're trying to do anything they can to save Donald Trump. Got news for you guys. You can't save him. Too fucking late. You spent more time delaying than you did trying to come up with a way to defend him. And now it's too fucking late. You're fucking done. Your boy is done. Now, Tommy Tuberville, a senator from Alabama, was unabashed when asked about his reasons for attending former President Donald Trump's trial, telling Newsmax's Chris Salcido that he did it to overcome his gag order on Trump. Oh, see, that's the problem. He did it to find a workaround around the gag order. However, that workaround the gag order is a violation of the gag order nonetheless. That's how stupid this motherfucker is. It's not bad enough that they do it, but they admit to it. Trump is facing 34 felony counts, as we know. This is the historic first ever criminal trial for a U.S. president. The gag order imposed by Judge Marchand restricting Trump from discussing witnesses, jurors or prospective jurors, prosecutors, court staff, Marchand's relatives or relatives of the district attorney. That's been a major source of irritation for Trump and his allies, even after he was found to have committed multiple violations, fined several $1,000s, and warned future violations could very well land him in jail. Tuberville joined a group of Republican lawmakers and those rumored to be auditioning for the job of Trump's running mate, who trekked to New York this week to show their support for the ex-president, many of whom got pretty well mocked for what they were doing. The Alabama senator doesn't seem to have joined the red tie club. The sky blue tie he donned Monday was actually closer in hue to the one Trump himself wore in court that day, and he switched to yellow for Tuesday. But Tuberville, nonetheless, was all too happy to advocate for the presumptive GOP presidential nominee. On Tuesday's episode of the Chris Salcido show, the Newsmax host asked Tuberville what he saw in the Manhattan courtroom. And we talked about that before. He was upset about two things. He was upset that the judge had the audacity to call him Mr. Trump, not President Trump or former President Trump. And that amount of disrespect was just too much for Tuberville to handle. And then the other thing he was concerned about was the decorative condition of the courtroom. It is kind of a dull, drab courtroom. It's probably very old. It was probably redecorated in the Kennedy administration. And he said, I can't believe they have Donald Trump in there. It's just depressing in there. Well, you know what? When we're dealing with criminals, we're not trying to bring them joy. We're trying to verify that they are guilty, and then they're going to spend a lot of time. Donald Trump will spend a lot of time in a rather drab home. So maybe he should just get used to this shit. The fact is that all these people showing up, these sycophants, they look like jokes. They thought they were showing solidarity. They thought they were doing something. They thought they looked strong. But once again, the Republicans fail and they looked absolutely fucking ignorant. Now, something that came out yesterday that I didn't know about, but is really telling about who Trump-fucks truly are. Stormy Daniels took major precautions to protect herself while testifying in Donald Trump's New York trial, according to her lawyer. Attorney Clark Brewster appeared on CNN's Anderson Cooper's 360 on Monday, where he revealed how the adult film star wore a bulletproof vest under her clothes every day until she got to the Manhattan courthouse where the trial was taking place. Excuse me. Now, you might think that seems like overreaction, but is it? We know what happens to these people that have the audacity to speak out against Donald Trump. There are death threats. There are many death threats. Those two women down in Georgia, the election workers, still getting fucking death threats, for God's sake. So Stormy Daniels had to wear a bulletproof vest. And I don't think that's overreacting. I think there are people out there in the Republican Party that would love to take out Stormy Daniels and think that they would be a hero if they did. She was concerned about the security coming into New York, Brewster told host Anderson Cooper and the show's panelist. Offering some insights into Daniels' headspace during the trial, Brewster said, I can tell you that before she came on Sunday, I mean, she cried herself to sleep. She was paralyzed with fear, not of taking the stand or telling her story, but what some nut might do to her. And I'm genuinely concerned about it as well. As well, they should. Now, despite Daniels being frightened, Brewster said he knew her time to shine would be during cross examination. She's a quick thinker, he said, noting how the defense's approach to its questions was right up her alley, and she smoked the defense team. Last week, Daniels offered graphic testimony of her alleged tryst with Trump, who is facing the 34 felony charges. And the best part of that is, if nothing else, that was immensely embarrassing to Donald Trump. And that is the worst thing you can do to a narcissist, embarrass them. That gets in their head. And that's part and parcel to what I was talking about, whether he'll be the nominee or not. Over and above the convictions, the fact that he's being revealed to be the dirtbag that he is going to take as much toll on Donald Trump as actually a guilty conviction. Now, the former president, Donald Trump, of course, has denied any wrongdoing. He's never done anything wrong. Everything is a hoax. Everything is fake news. But again, where this is really getting in his head and causing a problem is that gag order. He wants so bad to say something because that's his nature. He wants to say something, but he can't. Again, all those people that said, oh, he just wants to go to jail. Clearly, he doesn't. Clearly, he doesn't. Because I thought if there was any time that he was going to break, it would be when Michael Cohen was on the stand. You got two um, loose cannons, and it's inevitable that somebody's going to lose their shit. Funny thing is, Donald Trump didn't. He spent 90% of the time leaning back with his eyes closed. That's all he did. And a lot of people are wondering, is he sleeping? What's he trying to do? And basically, he's trying to create a perception of him as not worried, doesn't care. I'm just going to sit back and listen to it and deal what I have to do. Then I'll win the case and it'll be over. But he's clearly concerned. He's concerned enough to try to affect his persona, give the perception he wants the people to believe. Fact is, nobody believes it. Well, there might be some Trump fucks that believe it. But as proof of that, Donald Trump, after court, claimed that he had a very good day after his attorney Todd Blanche cross examined Michael Cohen in Manhattan's hush money trial on Tuesday. Well, Donnie, what courtroom were you in? Because granted, I didn't see the whole uh, court's day, but I did hear the reports from reporters. This was not a good day for Donald Trump, but this is right up Donald Trump's alley. He tells you the opposite of what's true so he can try to convince you. Donald Trump is not having much luck convincing people these days. Following the first day of Blanche's cross examination of Cohen, Trump spoke to reporters outside the courtroom. He said, as you know, I'm under a gag order, so I can't really answer those very simple questions that you're asking. I'm under a gag order. Nobody actually seen anything like it. Yeah, we have seen things like it. We've never seen a former president have to go through it, but that's on you, motherfucker, not on the court. He went on to say, and today we had I think, a very good day in court, the former president continued. You see what's happening, and you'll have to report it because I can't talk about it too much. For nearly 15 minutes, Trump read from a stack of papers quoting right wing pundits who wrote in support of his defense. And that's his strategy. He has somebody specifically finding any positive news story written by some hack on the radical right side of the field. And he reads those as if, see, there's proof. I'm innocent because this dumb fuck said I'm innocent. That's all he's got. It's pretty sad when you think about it. And I don't think he realizes how much trouble he's truly in. Because as much as Donald Trump is a criminal, he is also delusional. I think he thinks he's still going to win. And I love that. I really do love that. Remember, I've said before, there's nothing I love better than a Republican getting beat. There's only one thing I like better than that is when they get fucking blindsided and they didn't expect it and they don't know what to do. And that looks like what's going to happen to Donald Trump here because there's no way he's not getting convicted of multiple crimes. Now, he went on to say this, we'll be back tomorrow. Somebody should tell him you have Wednesday off. That was the day that I think that was the day you're supposed to go to your kid's graduation. The question is, will you? So they won't be back in court tomorrow. And he went on to say, again, we had a very good day. I think we're exposing this scam for what it is. One reporter said, are you angry? Donald Trump did not respond and walked away. But he was clearly angry. That's the one thing people said who saw him in the courtroom. He was absolutely livid, but he was having to hold himself back, which is unnatural for Donald Trump. He's not good at doing that. And then when he went out and started talking, clearly he was angry. He was angry not because it was a good day, because it was a very bad day. Michael Cohen did exactly the opposite of what they'd hoped he'd do, and now they don't know what to do with it. They're fucking stuck. When Michael Cohen goes back on the stand tomorrow, if he continues along this tract, they are going to be truly fucked. I think everything they had in this trial had to go to discredit Michael Cohen, and they haven't been able to do it. Now they might ramp it up tomorrow. It might get a little crazy, and we'll wait and see what happens. But so far, it's not working well for them. And as I've said before, there is nothing that's worked well for the defense team, Donald Trump's defense team, thus far in the trial. And after Thursday, the prosecution is going to rest. And when they rest, now the defense has to put on their story. And I don't know that they have much of a story. All the people that might testify for the defense already testified for the fucking prosecution. All those people were Donald Trump insiders. Who else you got? You gonna call Doug Burgum up or Vivek Ramaswamy? Good luck. Do that. That's not going to help your case much. Now, Steve Bannon, we've been hearing about him a little bit. He had an appeal on his contempt of Congress, and he'd been out of jail up until the time of the appeal, and that appeal was denied. He did not win the appeal. So he still has 4 months to do in prison, and he's going to do it. But this was an interesting story. Steve Bannon, he was the campaign manager turned MAGA World podcaster, may be headed to jail sooner rather than later after federal prosecutors in Washington, D.C. filed a motion Tuesday asking he begin serving his jail sentence. I don't know why they even have to ask that. He lost his appeal. He's been found guilty. He's been sentenced to 4 months. Let's get to getting and get your fucking ass in jail. But the DOJ asked the U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols to order Bannon to begin serving his 4-month prison sentence for contempt of Congress following Bannon losing an appeal last week. And this is one I really want to see. This is an arrogant motherfucker that thinks he has all the answers, but he doesn't know jack shit. They need to go pick him up today, put his sorry, dirty ass in jail, and let him sit there for 4 months and think about it. He's going to have to get a replacement host for his podcast, but let's be perfectly honest. Nobody with above or average or above average intelligence listens to the show anyway. They could run reruns from 2 months ago. They wouldn't fucking know. Consequently, there is no longer a substantial question of law that is likely to result in a reversal or an order for a new trial. That's how the motion read. Bannon losing his appeal, adding that under these circumstances, the court shall order defendant to be detained, so the stay of sentence must be lifted. Judge Nichols did not immediately rule on the motion, but instead gave Bannon's lawyers until Thursday to respond. Isn't that always what they do? Bannon told ABC News, "I'm shocked they want to silence the voice of MAGA." Oh, yeah, you arrogant fuck. You're the voice of MAGA. If you're the voice of MAGA, they're in more trouble than we imagine. Bannon's War Room podcast has become a central outlet for hard-right Republican leaders like Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz to voice their grievances against both Democrats and mainstream Republicans. Wow. He thinks he's somebody, but he's not. Let's talk about another Fox News reporter. Apparently, she got admonished while in court. The Daily Beast reports Laura Ingraham had a pair of binoculars with her in the courtroom and was told several times to stop using them. Although binoculars are not strictly speaking banned in a courtroom, according to the Beast, they are banned when evidence is being shown to legal counsel before being presented to the jury, which is exactly when the Fox News host whipped them out. Are you surprised that somebody from Fox News was misbehaving in court? I wonder what, if anything, they can do to her. Apparently nothing as yet. The Daily Beast reports Ingraham had a pair of binoculars with her in the courtroom. On the first day of Trump's trial last month, Ingraham raised eyebrows after comments she made to millions of Fox News viewers regarding Trump's relationship with Daniels. Stormy Daniels thought she had leverage over Trump back in 2016, and she used that leverage to extract some money. The right wing host said, like other politicians who made embarrassing mistakes, Donald Trump was apparently trying to get that episode behind him. Legal analyst Bradley Moss shared a clip of Ingram's remarks via X, writing, "Wait, is Ingram admitting that Trump had an affair? Because Trump certainly has not admitted that at all." And he hasn't. He continually insists that he did not have any kind of tryst with Stormy Daniels. But he also tells us that he won the 2020 election too. So who believes that fucking pathologically lying motherfucker? All right. And in terms of denying the election, there are motherfuckers still trying to deny that January 6th was an insurrection. Yet another false claim by Trump supporters in defense of the January 6 rioters has been blown to pieces after House Republicans released their latest batches of footage of the attack on the U.S. Capitol, according to longtime congressional reporter Jamie Dupree. Specifically, Dupree wrote, "The footage puts the lie to the assertion that police at the Capitol stood by and opened the doors and let the rioters in, a claim that they often use. Um, and frankly, even if the police did allow them in, that doesn't make it legal for breaking windows and beating other police officers up and killing a police officer." Now, they claim that the police officers let them in as evidence that the whole event was somehow an entrapment operation to trick Trump supporters into committing acts of violence. They've never been able to explain why Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats would want something like this to happen. Their guy was being voted in and certified as president of the United States. Why would they do that? Why would they? Any more than why would Michael Cohen pay off Stormy Daniels without Donald Trump's knowledge? Why in the world would that happen? It just goes back to what we always hear from them. Don't believe the facts. Don't believe the evidence. Just believe what I tell you. Unfortunately, there's a faction of people that are dumb enough to follow that direction. Courtesy of House Republicans, I went to watch 3 more hours of January 6 security tapes from the Capitol today. This was written by Dupree, this journalist, in a post on X. The tapes show the biggest lie about January 6 is that the cops opened the doors to let Trump supporters in. That did not happen. The footage in Dupree's post showed police trying to hold the line and prevent the mob from bursting in through several doors at the Capitol, often being overpowered by a flood of people rushing them. At no point in the footage did police stand aside or open doors to allow people in. Ever since the Capitol attack, which led to widespread injuries among officers, millions of dollars in damage throughout the building, and jeopardized the safety of members of Congress certifying the electoral count, defenders of the participants have pushed a number of false claims, including that none of them were armed, which was swiftly debunked as several were arrested on various weapons charges. Now, in recent months, House Republicans have released thousands of hours of raw security footage on the January 6th attack. Funny, you haven't heard anything about it or not much about it. If there was any evidence of what they are saying, they certainly would have put it out in social media and crowed about it, but they haven't, have they? So there is no evidence, much like the attempted impeachment of Joe Biden. Now, this marks a reversal from a previous assertion by House Speaker Mike Johnson that the footage couldn't be released unaltered because those who participated in the attack could be retaliated against, which led to widespread outrage. They didn't want to release it because they knew it wouldn't show anything, and Mike Johnson is slightly smarter than the rest of the dumb motherfuckers. But they put it out so they can say, yeah, we put it out. It's all right there, until somebody actually looks at it and says, yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not. And have you heard a response from the Republicans at this point arguing that fact? No, you have not, because they can't argue it. It's all performative with them. There is no substance. They want to put something out there and hope it goes viral and hope it shows Joe Biden in a bad light or the Democrats in a bad light. But every fucking time they've tried since Joe Biden has taken office, it's failed. It's failed. And if you think it's going to get any better between now and November, you're sadly mistaken. They are not in a strong position right now. They are not doing well. And I'm talking about the Republicans and certainly Donald Trump. And everything that's going on, there is no hope that it's going to be any better. So sit back, grab some popcorn and your favorite beverage, and watch the show, because the Republicans and Donald Trump are going down and the descent is starting to speed up. All right, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking time to listen. I hope you have a great day. And of course, we'll talk to you again tomorrow.